Sir, vanakkam.
வணக்கம் மேடம்.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I'm just. Shall I share the PPT?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
வணக்கம் சார்.
வணக்கம் மேடம். Is it visible now?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now it's okay.
Yes. Okay.
Is it visible now, the PowerPoint?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And we can start now. 4 o'clock.
Yes, ma'am. Sir, shall we
Yes,
start,
I'm
sir?
ready. Yes,
Yes.
ma'am, I'm around.
Okay. A good evening, everyone. Achievers never expose themselves, but their achievements expose them. So let us work hard to become achiever in the future. This session will be make us achieve great things. I am wholeheartedly welcome you to this third day of International Virtual Faculty Development Program on the topic of outcome-based curriculum on behalf of Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University, Department of Curriculum Planning and Evaluation, and the Department of Educational Technology, Bharathidasan University. First, I would like to thank and warm welcome our Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University Vice Chancellor Sir and warm welcome our Bharathidasan University Vice Chancellor Sir. Next in turn, I would like to thank and welcome Registrar of Tamil Nadu Teachers Education University and Registrar of Bharathidasan University and your appreciation made our track in successful path. And also our heartfelt thanks and welcome Professor I. Muthuchami Sir, Professor and Head Department of Educational Technology, Bharathidasan University. Welcome, sir. Next in turn, with immense pleasure and joy, I welcome all the participants of this international ritual program who played an important role in this program. Welcome, dear participants. I extend my sincere thanks and cordially welcome an eminent resource person. It is the right time to introduce the resource person. Dr. Ellen Venkataraman is the coordinator of Public Policy Program in Terry School of Advanced Studies. Before joining Terry School of Advanced Studies, he has been an affiliated lecturer at the Faculty of Education in University Bielefeld, Germany, and at the Center of Development Support in the University, the Free State, South Africa. His academic works can be consulted in the Academic and Political Weekly, Development in Practice, and Indian Journal of Human Development, among others. As a university professional, he has been closely associated with various scholars, public intellectuals in India as well as abroad, and actively sharing perspectives and delivering lectures. He was a research fellow of the Center for Research and Higher Education and Development in South Africa and the Research School on Education and Capability in Germany. Also, he is one of the thematic coordinator of the Human Development and Capabilities Association and member of similar other academic associations. It is a matter of pride for us to have such a special person as our resource person. Now I hand out the session to our resource person. Please, sir.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So thank you very much for this kind introduction, and I'm really grateful for your university, the Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, and the leadership, Vice Chancellor of both universities, who are having this collaboration to have this faculty development program. My purpose of sharing some of the purpose of sharing some of my ideas, which are yet to be published soon, is to give you some provocative statements. Actually, I really want to provoke it in a sense. I do not want to continuously squeeze or take all of your 1 hour at a stretch. So what I'm planning to do today is I'll just speak for 30 minutes, but I wish to have more questions so that we can have a debate because I want to, since we are all faculty members, doing this discussion in front of senior academics like the vice chancellors and the registrar of these two universities, I think we should give them the opportunity how we are thinking and so that they will help us to refine some of our ideas as well. So that is the broad objective I'm beginning the talk today. Second is, I know most of the participants, because I had a discussion with Dr. Rajeshwari, most of the participants are able to speak, Tamil, and if they want clarification, I am willing to do that in Tamil as well. But some of the participations who are from abroad as well as Jelly from here may not be able to understand. So we will try to make it bilingual as well as and when we require. So the point I really want to the point I want to request you at this stage is that if you can note down all your points which needs clarification, we will take up once I am done with the presentation so that I can concentrate effectively for the next 20-30 minutes. That's the first point. Second, I really want you to question as much as you can so that I will work harder than what I am supposed to do. That's the second request. With these two requests, I really want to begin the session. Am I audible? If there is a shall I go ahead?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, yeah. Just in case if you lost the connection, if you can just call me, I can just come back to me, ma'am. In the mobile, you can call me. I just left the mobile nearby only. So the topic, I know I did go through the previous sessions, and this is a 5-day program on diverse aspects of curriculum. And my intention is to begin with a kind of a conceptual planning. What is it happening around us actually? Because my intention is to understand the complexities which are happening in the contemporary education dialogues at the national level, not only in the state level in Tamil Nadu or any other state, but what is it happening the nation, India as a nation. So I am trying to conceptualize based on this note called the curricular consensus. What do I mean by that? Let us go one by one. Before going to a lot of disturbances are there. Can we mute others?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mute all. Yes,
Can
sir.
I unmute myself?
Yes, sir. Your voice is audible.
Okay, ma'am. So first it is in order to understand the curricular consensus, I feel that we need to first understand what is our system, right? What kind of system we have created in the last 70 odd years of democracy, and how are we going about it? If you look at the system in terms of the diverse aspect, what we are getting is a overall picture, in my opinion, is that it's a kind of a broken system. So we need to understand what is it, why I am calling it as a broken system, right? So if I want to picture this broken system, the first very important literature which I refer is the Mendelssohn's Visionary in 1998. They wrote a book about India's development, and they call our Indian state as a crisis manager. If you look at, it's not only education, if you look at the public policy in general, education in particular, Indian state, I'm not talking about Tamil Nadu as a state, India as a state, the political conception of state, India as a state has been a crisis manager. On most of the crucial issues, we don't have a perspective planning, so we check up issues as and when we reach there. So today, if 80 children are dying in Gorakhpur hospital, entire media as well as public attention will go to the hospital and discuss as if we are going to change the entire health narrative forever. But immediately in the next day, Madam Sridevi might have died in the Dubai hotel. So immediately the media attention will go to Dubai. Then the third day, something else will happen. The attention will go to that issue. So what happened is, over the years, in the last 70 odd years, what we are witnessing, if I consult the diverse literature on this, the system has been, or the state has been a crisis manager. There has not been any perspective planning. What are we going to do in the next 20 years? What are we going to do in the next 10 years? That kind of a perspectives are all missing. So at the broader level, I am in total agreement with this perspective of calling the state as a crisis manager, right? Crisis manager. Second is policy formulation, not necessarily in education, but across the board in public policy. We have been witnessing a simple fact that it has been a bureaucratic exercise. Never it has been left to the academics and having a collaboration with academics, bureaucrats, and all other stakeholders. But if you look at the policy formulation, it has always been a bureaucratic exercise. Even in the present new education policy, if you look at it, most of the members, or in my opinion, all the members are not from education, or not the noted educationist of this country. Yes, the chairman is a noted scientist, but he is not an education person. So what happened is, the policy formulation is a bureaucratic exercise, hierarchically controlled by the ruling elites. It's not only about this government, irrespective of the government in the last 70 years. This has been the historical trajectory to understand this broken system. Third is, in addition to this, what we are witnessing is that even if you are looking at these curricular framework as well as national education policy in particular, what we have been witnessing is the simple fact that most of this rhetoric, whatever we are writing, as well as whatever we are trying to implement, has been dominated by the global agendas. So these international goals, so one education for all goal will indirectly make this as a Ellorukum Kalvi in Tamil Nadu or Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan in other parts of the country. But this has been the reality. So we have been talking about universalization without quality. So this universalization has been built on the rhetoric that we have issues in terms of access, gender as well as caste is actually playing a societal role. We need to enhance this universalization. But what we have witnessed, the very basic fact is that the national context as well as the regional identities have been overlooked in terms of these global goals or the international agendas. So these three aspects in relation to the last important aspect of implementation record across the board, whether it is curriculum framework 2000 or 2005 or the new curriculum framework which is going to come in the immediate next year, hopefully. None of the records in education in particular, as well as public policy in general, has been very impressive. They are not at all impressive. So this unimpressive implementation record in total, along with the three important aspects what I mentioned, is in a way, it's picturizing how broken the system is. So this broken system has to be understood in terms of this is what I'm going to conceptualize today. As I said earlier, I'm trying to understand this as a curricular consensus. What do we mean by that? Consensus, we know that it's a kind of a collaboration on which we try to get into an agreement. And in curricular, what kind of consensus are we heading? If you look at the state, for example, the state means the Indian state, not like the regional one. The state's responsibility on education has been seemingly as a citizenship charity. Over the years, we have been producing different kind of rhetoric. In 1960s, Uthari Commission onwards, till date in 2020, we have been discussing about 6% of GDP allocation for education, which we never fulfill, for example, the last 30, 40 years, for example, 60 years, for example, 60 to 2020. So, if you look at the state's responsibility towards education, we are getting an impression that it's not only the financial inability. As I said earlier, there is a problem in implementation, there is a problem in leadership. At all levels, there are problems, so I call it as a broken system. So, our intention is to understand how the state has been performing in terms of education. In my opinion, it has been giving an impression that it is considering education as a charity, nothing else. So in charity, you know how one performs, selective morality will be there, or selective seriousness will be there. In one issue, the government may be very serious. In another issue, it may not be serious. So the selective morality has track record in the last 60, 70 years of independence. Okay, what is happening in citizens? If you look at the citizens like you and me, we approach education on the contrary has often been on the utilitarian notions of employability. We always look at education in terms of employability. Whether I am getting a entry to this particular school or this particular college will be most often decided by the employability, what I am going to get out of it. Whether I am going to get a engineering degree in IIT or a local nearby college, which one will be preferable? So most of the citizens' calculation or the approach towards education is basically on the utilitarian notions of employability. This is a kind of a self-defeating exercise because education, the real intentions of education is not just to get an employment, it is something else as well. It is a very reductionistic understanding. If I am studying a subject like sociology or public policy or development studies or economics, for example, only in terms of the employability or only in terms of getting a job, it is a reductionistic understanding in my opinion. So it is not only the failure on the part of the state, it is also what we are witnessing is a failure on in part of ourselves as well. So we compete with each other in terms of accumulating more knowledge in order to get a well-placed entry into the labor market and in order to climb the economic ladders of mobility. That's the second aspect. Third is, in contrast to these two extremes, the market considered this as a profitable sector. We know that how the education has been a commercial sector in the last 30 years, especially after the structural adjustment program in the 1990s. And more or less, the school education is gone because the public imagination about the state's service deliverable is almost nil because none of us, I'm sure if 100, 200 people are attending this webinar, most of us will be sending our children only to the private school for obvious reasons of English speaking ability or quality or various other criteria. None of us will be sending our children to the public schools or the government schools for its notorious inability to provide the quality service education. So the market, if you look at the third angle, is actually always considering, with a few exceptions maybe, yes, we cannot generalize in all one together. But generally, if you look at the market's approach towards education, it has been a commercial one or the profit-making one. So all these things, one is the state and the civil society, that is the citizens and the market. If you look at these three trilateral angle, what we are getting is a consensus where we all are going towards a unidirection where consequently education becomes a certificate spitting venture under the credential regime. Everybody is competing to get that one particular certificate as a graduate or a postgraduate or a doctorate or a MPhil degree holder or whatever it may be. We are obsessively worried about this. None of us actually is approaching whether the state or citizens or the market is approaching what Swami Vivekananda called education as a man-made mission, or whatever the great ideals what Gandhiji called in terms of the basic education. Our approach towards education across the board, not only in our personal level, but all the levels, has been a certificate spitting venture, which this can be called or can be conceptualized within the credential regime. We call this as a credential regime because most of us are all obsessively worried about the result or the outcome. Even if you look at the present document, that is the national education policy, the central focus, what we are getting out of it, is actually the outcome. What are we going to get out of this particular certificate? Whether it is school education or higher education, for example, exit entry, for example. Anytime you can join and anytime you can get exit according to your convenience. But outcome chahiye, or we need outcome. So this kind of obsessive focus on outcome is a symbolic factor which is actually conceptualizing in terms of the credential regime. Credential regime in terms of, we look at it only in terms of the instrumental value, not like education for the sake of man-making mission or the personality or character building, but just to look at it education in terms of its utilitarian employability values. This is a kind of a reductionistic understanding we are heading. even if you are looking at the curricular implications of the current debate, especially if you look at this national education policy, there are a lot of worrisome exclusions are there. Ma'am, some disturbance is coming. So there are a lot of worrisome exclusions are there. What are these worrisome exclusions? If you go through the document, whether it is a 60-page document which the cabinet approved or the earlier 400 odd pages the committee Professor Kasturirangan submitted to the country, if you look at both the reports, there are certain worrisome exclusions are there. What are they? One is though the document is liberal in its economic foundation, one is concerned about its socio-political visions. This is a very heavy-loaded position I am trying to argue, but I am trying to simplify for the sake of the younger colleagues, where if you look at the economic principles of this particular document, whether it is curricular or the broader policy narrative, it is very crystal clear. Its foundations are very strong. But in terms of the socio-political visions, it is very, very weak. What are they? For example, it is highly silent on caste. There is no discussion about caste, as if caste is not at all existing in this country. Or there has been no discussion on reservation, or there has been no discussion on secularism. These are all the higher ideas which are having a serious implications on the very idea of curriculum framework, or very idea of the curricular transaction, what we are going to do in the institutions of learning. Whether this particular committee is in disagreement with this aspect or not, what we need to understand the reality out there in different states as well as the union territories in this country are embedded by these realities. So we cannot overlook these aspects as conveniently as our ideology. That is the broader point which I am trying to make in this exclusion. Second, for example, in the name of equality and meritocracy, the NAP overlooks the ideals of equity. You know that there is a difference between equality and equity. Equality is like you and me are same, let us stand in the same position and compete. Equity is we have to see each other's in terms of from where we are beginning, right? Equity is basically a principle based on the social justice. If I am a person who happened to born in a Brahmin family, and if my friend who is born into other community which is deprived or other religion which is deprived, we both cannot be equal, even though our economics may be equal, or even though our talent may be equal, but our social capital or the cultural capital is unequal. So I may be better placed, technically I may be better placed, and he may not be or she may not be better placed. So what this document is actually excluding is the basic fact that it is kind of a pedestrian rhetoric where equality and meritocracy it is talking about, but it is not talking about equity. Equity is a very, very higher ideal, which is very essential ideal, which is more important than the equality and meritocracy. But the document, if you look at it in carefully, if you look at it in terms of its conceptual contours, it is very sad. It's very worrisome to see these exclusions. Another important point is we know that as a person who is working on curriculum, we know that every government or every establishment will have its own agenda. Can you unmute everyone? Sorry. If we, as an educationist or people who are students of education, we know that every establishment will have its own political agenda of education, and this is part of the governance making. There is no doubt about it. But if you look at these agendas clearly, what we are witnessing is a kind of a troublesome twist. Actually, one is the cultural nationalism of keeping one religion at the cost of others, and it is actually combining itself or aligning itself effectively with capitalism. Yes.
Sorry, excuse me.
Is it for me? So what we are witnessing is the basic fact is that one is the cultural nationalism as an idea or a dominant idea, which is actually having a popular mandate in the electoral colleges, and it's twisting with the idea of capitalism is a very problematic thing. which has to be conceptualized. I can come back to this point if you need any clarification when we reach. Second is the, as I said earlier, almost all the actors, the balancing of acts of the market state defines employability as the goal. It is not only we are approaching education in terms of its employability factor, even in this, even this is actually redefining the very idea of quality. If institution is actually ensuring a higher campus packages out of these placements, it is considered to be a high quality institution at the cost of others. As I said earlier in the beginning of the discussion, where we cannot reduce the ideals of education only in terms of the employability factors. How I am thinking, how I am actually an active citizen, how I am a citizen who is abiding by the rule of the law, rule of law of the land, and so the disposition factors which are being overlooked in terms of our obsession with the employment, which is a kind of a problematic one. Third is what we are witnessing these days is that information becomes the knowledge. In my opinion, this is becoming a new curricular choices. We know that there is a distinct difference between knowledge and information. Information is just like what you are getting in the newspaper. Even if you look at the NEP specific, national new education policy specific discussions, the analysis are all based on this information, but there is no knowledge is getting generated. So this is actually a problematic one. With this I call as a new curricular choices. Next important point is, as the NAP is talking about the citizens' duties for various education ideals, this is good, there is no doubt about it, but the later rights over the state has been overlooked. This will have a serious curricular implications in the long run, because the idea of right to education, for example, is absent actually. We have not seen any discussion on right to education as such. This, in my opinion, in terms of the contemporary debates on education or the dialogues on education, will have a serious implications of the very curricular framework which we are going to form. In addition, I'm forced to say this actually. What does it fail to say? Okay, this document is talking about so many things in terms of creating a decent public discourses on education. But what does it fail to say? We need to understand. As I said earlier, important issues are being deftly evaded between the lines. The myopic omission of untouchability as the national contribution, even in social sciences. Okay, caste-specific, reservation-specific debates may not be useful for the basic science or the natural science or engineering science, but for social science, it's the bottom line on which we build our entire justice framework. So this omission, this selective morality or the selective omission, myopic omission, is a very problematic position in my opinion. Second is, as I said earlier, the basics are very, very weak. It's a very well-written document. There is no doubt about it. It will have a very conceptual implications on the very idea of curriculum. There is no doubt about it. But if you look at the theoretical strength, it is very weak. One does not know what is NEP's theory of knowledge, for example. Are we really going to make you and me as a blue-collar worker which are going to be who are going to be identical? Is it the purpose of education? I'm not sure about it. And the last important thing is, while the committee did not have any noted education, it is worrisome to note that the absence of public deliberations. Even in the last 1.5 months, I'm very carefully looking at almost all the available public discussions. What we are witnessing is not only the noted educationists who are not available in the committee, but everybody is silent actually. Nobody is writing about these aspects. This is actually a dangerous signal actually. This will have a serious implications on the very citizenship formation as well as the nation state making in the long run. Because any public policy, including education, has to be deliberated publicly, and we need to argue and we need to agree to disagree, and that deliberation has to be strengthened. But what we are witnessing over the month is that almost except 2-3 critical voices, the educationists across the board, Because India is a huge land, populating 1.3 billion people, right? 130 crore people. So, if we are not creating a decent discourses to analyze these curricular implications in terms of these policy discourses, I think we may be fooling ourselves. So, this is actually a concern for me. So, most important point is the Indianization of education. It looks very good, but if you disaggregate it, there are a lot of problems. What are they? For example, the realities of diversities countering the reality rhetoric of homogeneity. The document is actually considering the South India and Northeast as a unified whole. Because as a South Indian or a Dravidian by identity, I do know that the cultural distinction of Tamils as well as the non-Tamils actually. But if you look at the document, it is actually putting you and me, everyone into one packages, which is actually overlooking the diversity which the country is known for. So this notion of Indianization is a kind of a concern. Actually. Even if you look at the subnational identities, for example, how these identities are going to be negotiated, we are not able to get any answer, the curricular answer into the document. And the constraints of scientific temper amidst the religious obstructionism, we all know. Because I can spend at least 5 minutes on this. Actually, we have tampered with the idea of scientific temper. You know that in last year Indian Science Conference, Vice Chancellor of university from South India, Andhra University, for example, his name is Professor Nankeshwara Rao. He said a couple of things which needs to be considered. First point, we said Ravana, a demon god with the 10 heads, had 24 kinds of aircraft of varying sizes and capacities. This was a statement by a vice chancellor. The second, he also cited the tales from Mahabharata to formulate a point that India was aware of stem cells, test tube fertilization, and guided missiles thousands of years ago. So these kind of discussions, when you are getting in the public discourses, Lord Ganesha as an example of organ transplantation, this kind of discussion, if you look at it, it is unfortunate to put us back into the 1950s classical debate between astrology and astronomy, right? The Nehru and the others, the parliament, they were debating. So if you are actually going back 70 years in our quality of public discourses, it is very unfortunate. And it will have a serious curricular implications on the forthcoming generations as well. So the leadership, we need to see how it is going. So I end here with this broad concerns. I'll take only few minutes. One is, can the pandemic, what it is going on at present, help us reimagine our education systems? And what changes are we expecting in the post-COVID world in terms of the curricular? This can be seen in terms of broad four important points. One, are we aware of the challenges the youth face in terms of the curricular implication? We need to theorize it. Are we giving enough priority to education? Because we may say that we are going to invest 6%, but this has been a rhetoric for the last 60 years. Even if you are looking at the public discourses, it is not very impressive. So one policy document is not going to change the entire system. So what are we going to do? Under RT, our children are in school. Okay, that's good. But can they read? But the ASR report is actually scaring us actually. 7-year-old, the seventh standard children are not able to read third standard textbooks. This is a reality actually. So if this is the case, and lastly, will the street level bureaucrats understand the ideals of interdisciplinarity? Because we are talking about interdisciplinary curricular framework through the document. But the person who is implementing at the street level, the village level headmaster, the teachers, or the college lecturers, do they understand the interdisciplinarity? Because our basics are very weak. What are we going to do? So with these broader concerns, I think I should stop here. As I said earlier, I'll just spend half of the time for the discussion. I end here with this quotation by the poem by T.S. Eliot. If you can actually start some questions and discussions, we'll have a debate. Thank you. Ma'am, can we take some questions?
We can take up. The first question is it's not my point of view, but everyone is thinking in that. We are working in higher education, so different sort of students are there in our class, especially in government institutions. Students who are having that low socio-economic status are there in the classroom, and government is imposing us to take the class through online. They don't have smartphones. How can they do these things? The problem, yeah, simply they are giving some suggestions, but implementing those suggestions in the classroom is really very hard. What can be done for this?
Madam, can we take one by one, or can I take a couple of questions to?
One by one.
Okay. I think I worked in Germany for 4 years, and what happened? What I learned, one thing from the system, especially the German system, is there is no attendance, and their logic is if the faculty is actually very renowned and very well read, students will definitely attend it. If the faculty is not good, students may not attend. That's the broader ideal framework on which German system is operating. I may not be knowing about the Indian system better than you, but this is the first philosophical point which we need to flag. Second is, yes, you are right. There is no electricity in this country. Nearly 30-40% of the households do not have any electricity, even after 70 years of independence, because without electricity you cannot have internet as well as the digital learning. So that is the reality on which we are operating. So digital education is not the solution, even during the pandemic. There is no doubt about it. Ideal position is 1 year we need to stop the education activities, and we need to find a medicine and give a confidence to the children as well as the students, because if this is a situation of this country in terms of the availability of mobile phones, we know that according to the various reports, even the access for mobile phones with the internet facilities are very scary actually. People from Bangalore, IT for Change, they are actually having all these figures if you want to look at it, which I don't remember in ready hand. So the phone, accessibility, internet, or all the sophisticated technology to facilitate this digital learning is a very, very challenging task, even during the pandemic. So we have to politely communicate this to the establishment, because the rulers or the political establishment may not know the realities of this country. But since we are from the field, and since we are educationists and researchers, we can actually we have to institutionalize this and collectively negotiate it. These public discussions or the deliberations on NEP, for example, the absence is a one symbolic factor where there are a lot of fear factor is there. People are not able to analyze. People are not able to create these discussions for no reasons. Actually, I do not know. We are just an academic. We don't have any other broader political thinking into it. Our intention is a scholarly one. We will do the same analysis with any change of leadership. So our it's a humble effort actually. Did I answer your question or any other question?
Same way, most of the teachers are used to teach in the lecture method. Especially the teachers are more than 50, means they are conversed in that way. Suddenly, everyone wants to use the technology, means it is really difficult for them to use. Even in the webinar, people are very finding it difficult to mute the audio. Sometimes they forget to mute the video, and when they talk, they are unmute the video. So there are so many problems going on by using the technology without any prior training and things. Suddenly we follow the switch over from the lecture method to the technology-based instruction. So that is the problem really the teachers are facing in every institutions.
You see, this couple of years ago, in I think 2011 or 12, if I'm not wrong, what happened is there is a movement called Anna. Can we unmute? So a couple of years back, I think 2010 or 11, there is a Anna Hazare movement in Delhi was happening. At that time, I was outside and I came back to India to do a field visit in Tamil Nadu. So when I was witnessing this Anna Hazare movement from the near quarters, what I realized is that most of these movements are all called the revolution from above. Revolution from above means these are all the revolutions which are not built from the real life. Actually. So going back to your questions on the take-off training and its implications for digital learning, what I can conceptualize is that we are worried about the access-related issues in higher education, right? What about the children actually, school education? Imagine a poor household, the children who are attending the different lectures through WhatsApp. It's a complete joke on the system, right? So we have reached a stalemate where there is no answer actually. Because the problem with us is, in my opinion, we are all in a hurry to find answers. Actually. Sometimes what happens, in this hurry, we always overlook these complexities. The other way around, what we can do is, we need to calm down and contemplate these ideas and find out these complexities, what is it happening, then find out the possible pathways. Otherwise, what happens? We will be in a rush to find the Maggie noodles basic solution. Be harmful for the health in the long run. Take other questions.
May I ask my question?
Please.
Good evening. My name is Rajpal. I work at National Institute of Speech and Hearing. It's an institute in Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala. So I work with deaf students, and we have 3 undergraduate programs for deaf students exclusively. And also in my department, there are staff members also, deaf and hard of hearing staff members. So all our whatever programs we conduct, whatever webinars we conduct, we have interpreters, sign language interpreters, so as to make it inclusive. So now across India, lots of webinars, lots of sessions are going on online. Lot of discussions are going on national education policy, and and even this curriculum, outcome-based curriculum, which I think is lost to this population. So we are not. We talks about inclusivity and inclusiveness in education. We are really not there, and so how do we solve this problem? I mean, every time something happens like this, and we want our deaf staff members or students to benefit or attend these sessions, we have to approach the organizer and ask whether an interpreter could be arranged and things like that. So shouldn't it be like mandatory that all the sessions that are happening now should be inclusive and should be accessible to all? I mean, isn't that high time that we went about doing these things? It should be should be happening now.
Yeah, excellent. I see your point actually. That's what I'm saying. There are broader points actually. One is situation out there is actually striking us very badly, and our infrastructure access even for normal people is a challenge. And we have inclusive issues like this, which cut across not only the disability, even if you cut across these exclusionary issues, which ranges from caste as well as gender, and so many identities which are embedded, regional factors, whether you are rural based or urban based. So all these things will come up. That's the first point. Second is, as I said earlier, we have we have a national culture in this country where we are always in a hurry to find solutions for complex issues. In my humble opinion, we cannot find solutions immediately. We need to devote time to understand how are we going to make this really inclusive in our everyday life. That's the challenge. Since you are a Keralite, you may be knowing the Swami Sukhabodhananda's writings in Tamil as well as he writes in English as well. There is a story called Idudan Ulagam and Idudan Varkai. Right. Yeah, what he basically philosophizes is that the story about a contradiction where we know that this is wrong, but it happens in real life. What do we do? So the answer lies is we don't have any answer actually. We think that we can find out answers for everything, but it's not. It's very complex actually, because we have this idea that we have this arrogance. I mean, if I'm politely saying, we have this arrogance as a human being that we can find out solution for everything. But reality is not. It's very complex actually. It's not like a black and white. There are a lot of gray areas out there. So we need to be humble and we need to find out and we need to critically engage and we need to be very critically conscious actually. As and whenever I go to my home state, Tamil Nadu, for example, whenever I visit the nearby universities, I'm from Trichy, and whenever I visit any of the universities in Chennai or Trichy or anywhere, it's very, very sad actually. We are all living in past glories where still, the authorities are having hierarchical and intellectual debates are not there, and lot of issues are there. So we need to start from the scratch actually. We need to find solutions at every level. I may be critical of everything, but I may be doing the same mistake in my personal academic life as well. So we need to begin at every level. You may be as a good scholar, may be concerned about inclusive education, but you may in your personal life may be overlooking by mistake certain aspects. So the self-criticality, this Paulo Freire's the critical pedagogy has to be imbibed actually. Continuously, we need to learn and unlearn. I think that's what I feel like. Did I answer your question or do we need to debate more? Please feel free and please try to ask as much as I can. That is the precise reason why I just spoke very less and I want to debate more. Please.
Yeah, may I ask?
Yeah, definitely, this is a debatable topic. I agree with you. I mean, this national education policy, also this 2020 policy, it's not expected that changes will come overnight. I mean, they have given us the implementation of the policy and whatever has been mentioned chapter wise. They have given colleges, universities time to, digest that and, understand the policy in its, because it's very comprehensive. And even in the policy now, it does mention, going or rather including Indian Sign Language as one of the languages. The policy has a chapter on that. So changes can be expected, yes. But my rather, what do you say? My request, what my prayer is that, going forward, it should not be like, a consideration. Oh, okay, that this population is there. It should be like, it should be like just how we open it to everyone. It should be a habit. You should have all these things in places. You should make this kind of online discussions accessible to all, irrespective of who you are, where you are from, etc., etc. So perhaps going forward that will happen. We can remain positive, and I see that happening in certain places and things like that.
The point.
Yeah.
The point of departure for a wonderful reflection is the intersection. Actually, if I ask, he says that yes, people who are disabled or the really deprived, and we need to have this intersection, the inclusive education. If I ask my colleague Dr. Rajeshwari, she will say that no, women are more deprived institutionally, so they should be inclusive. If I ask another colleague from Bharathidasan or any other university, they say that no, people who are living in rural India are more deprived. So this intersection cut across continuously, right? So a person who is living in a faraway village, who is a woman, who is disabled, the one which you are mentioning, and also who is a scheduled caste or scheduled tribe, for example, and who is illiterate, is the most deprived one. So the point what we need to understand is we always need to look at the policy or the curricular framework only from his or her perspective, actually. Not from my perspective or not from your perspective, because we are all privileged a lot, actually. So any policy and its usefulness can be seen what John Rawls said once, that the veil of ignorance. We need to have this veil and see the policy in terms of the most deprived person in your locality, whether this policy is going to empower this or not. If you look at the poverty figures in this country, for example, who are these people who are poor in this country? According to various committee reports, I can name Sachar committee report or Arjun Sen Gupta committee report or the Professor Tilak or the Planning Commission report. You can name any report. It has been established without doubt that scheduled tribe, scheduled caste, and Muslims in this country are the most deprived, economically, socially deprived people. In fact, Sachar committee said that Muslims in this country are most deprived than the scheduled caste. Whether this particular national education policy is actually looking at this, I'm not sure, because it is actually is a contestable point. My reading, it is having a self-imposed silence on secularism, because we cannot talk about minorities without the fabric of secularism, which is constitutionally mandated. So there are a lot of subtler areas or it's not that only the disabled person who need to be focused. Everyone, it's not like a black lives versus all lives. We need to look at it, who is more deprived than the blacks, actually. We need to begin from there, actually. So deprived in terms of the disability may be a very good start. But other colleagues may say that people who are disabled but staying in a remote village and with a gender identity in a patriarchal society, we need to look at these intersections. That's where the work lies, actually. But what we have reached a situation in this country is that we don't want a grand South Indian full meals no. So we want instant Maggi noodles for everything. So immediate outcome-based education, outcome, everything is outcome. So what happened? We are in a hurry, we are in a rush, and that hurriness to find the solution immediately is the problem, actually. First, we need to understand the system, we need to understand people, we need to understand the state, we need to understand the market, we need to understand the civil society, citizens, and we need to cross-check like a real the electrician who checks the points everywhere, whether the leakage is happening in your house or not. That's the researcher's role. Unfortunately, that is not available in my opinion. Yeah, can we take more questions?
May I, sir?
Yes, please.
This is Manzoor
Excuse,
Ahmed.
excuse me.
I'm the freshman. So
Yeah.
I'm faculty member at higher education, sir. I would like to. This was a very good, great presentation. I would like to draw your attention towards the fact I have been attending a couple of these, in fact, half a dozen webinars on this national education policy. But
Excuse me.
to my understanding, that
Excuse
there has
me.
been, yes.
1 minute. The participants kindly avoid asking questions regarding NEP. Being the teachers, there are a number of problems we face presently. So our discussion should be general, not pointing out anything. So that will be better, because our title and our vision is something different. So we don't go deep into that. So we talk about the general issues what we face today, presently, maybe the pandemic period or in general. So that will be better. It is a request. You can ask.
So may I? May I?
Yes, Mansoor, please.
So, sir, I have been seeing that whether it is NEP or any other discussion, I'm not able to see a critical reflection of anything happening. Now, and I could see a lot of bureaucratization in, especially in education, and I could see a lot of alliance building between bureaucrats and politicians. So I would like you to please throw some light on where has that critical ability gone? Plus, is it possible for academics?
Mansoor. Mansoor, you have to unmute yourself.
Sir Mansoor, sir, unmute yourself, sir.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
So I am myself finding it in a way, once there is an alliance building between bureaucrats and politicians, now at the end I could see the bureaucrats have ended up being the most powerful in this country, though we are living in a democratic country. Now I would love that if politicians of whatever ideology are in power and they assert themselves, but once the power comes in the hands of the bureaucrats, I could find there is a lot of problem. I could see an eminent professor, Amitabh Mottu of JNU, once told in a seminar that I would prefer a dishonest politician rather than an honest bureaucrat at some place. So please help us understand what's happening, why there is not critical reflection, and this alliance building, how could this be broken? And is it possible to build new alliances so that we can end up having something new?
I think this is a very valid concern. Obviously there is a disconnect between the text and the context, because the text, whether it is national curriculum framework or the policy framework, it will have a practically it will have a disconnect with the context, because we are all differently placed. Jammu Kashmir, from where you are calling, maybe a different state, and Tamil Nadu, where you are giving a talk, could be a different situation, and Delhi, where I am sitting, it could be a different situation. So the disconnect will always be there, because you know we cannot actually celebrate one model at the cost of other. For example, JNU, which you rightly mentioned. You see, even if you are looking at the financial allocation between the central universities, I'm not talking about state universities, it is not very democratic. An institution like Central University of Tamil Nadu and Jawaharlal Nehru University in Delhi, if you look at the financial allocation, definitely JNU may be getting better than the Central University of Tamil Nadu. That is the reality in this country. So we need to create a democratic financial reallocation across the institution. We need to empower the teachers, for example. We need to, this nobody will do, actually. The system will not do. It's like the say in Ram Gopal Verma's film, the system will not give you power. You have to take it. You have to take it on your own. So how do we do that? It's basically the critical engagement, reading, and intellectual discussion with the fellow academics, and look at other countries, how they are actually negotiating these constraints, and what can we learn. These kind of things are the only solution, because the political understanding of the curriculum and the academic understanding of the curriculum is totally different. It is always a disconnect, because we are academics and we look at the curriculum in terms of the academic principle. It's a very normative worldview. We don't compromise on the quality. We want our students to be smarter than us, will have a greater future than us. That is the ideal academic will look at it. But political dispensation may have its own agenda. Their agenda is driven by the real politics and compulsions. There is a story, right? So this bureaucrat who was actually giving a wonderful presentation in front of this agriculture minister, that if you cut the subsidy, you will get this money. benefit, etc., etc. So please cut the subsidy. So he gave a wonderful presentation for 15 minutes, and everybody was looking at the presentation, and he was scaring the minister, who is illiterate, with a lot of econometric analysis as an agriculture economist, etc., etc. The presentation went well, the discussion went well, and the minister asked simply that, okay, I will look into it, but tell me, if I cut the subsidies, will I get the election? Will I get re-elected next time? Obviously, the audience said no. Then why should I do that? In terms of the academic principle, the entire analysis of the particular issue, it could be like a subsidy, eliminating subsidy is the ideal academic narrative. That is our narrative. But in terms of the real politic narrative, it is not, because politicians work according to the winnability of the elections in the forthcoming elections. They look at their electoral college. So it's not that I may have a disagreement with you as a left-leaning intellectual. I may be a right-leaning intellectual. I cannot say that I will not talk to you. I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you with a lot of dignity. I need to really genuinely respect and debate. The moment when we do that sincerely and practice the democracy in our real life, then the changes will happen. Because if you do this, your students who are in the colleges where you are teaching will do that, and they will also practice it. That's how the society changes. Because we cannot reduce the ideals of education in terms of the individual's benefit. We have to look at the social role, actually. But most of us, whether it is citizens or the state, what we do, we approach education in terms of the instrumental, reductionistic, individualistic values. I am going degree, I'll get a job, I'll well placed. I'm doing this PhD, I will well placed. We cannot always reduce this in terms of this. We have to look at it in terms of the broader societal mandate. Each one of us should do that. Can I answer your question, or can we debate?
Yes.
Can we have more questions?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Geetanjali, yes.
Yes, sir. Sir, can you please explain with example you said in your cultural nationalist of the capitalism, and also another term, a heavy term you use, theory of knowledge. So can you please explain in detail both of these things?
Cultural nationalism is nothing but looking at this entire national debate in terms of one particular majoritarian worldview. Right? In this country, it could be Hindus. In some other country, it could be Islam, like that. The nation states, most of the time, try to reduce the ideals of curriculum in terms of this cultural nationalism. In my opinion, this is very problematic, because India is a land of all kind of religion, all kind of identities. So we need to cultural nationalism basically stands on this premise. Capitalism, as we know, that it is basically based on this human capital ideals of looking everything in terms of the instrumental profit value, surplus generation, right? So most of the expansion, whether it is foreign education providers which are going to come inside this country, or the Indian institutional providers, the private institution providers, they are all actually expanding just to get the surplus generation or the profit to make this sector a commercial one. That is the principle. The second one, which you said, I forgot. What is the second question? This is the first question. Second one.
Theory of knowledge. How can we define theory of knowledge?
I mean, what is your theory? I mean, theory of knowledge means you have a number of theories, right? You have the very knowledge paradigm can be seen in terms of diverse theoretical functionalism, structuralism. N number of theoretical Foucault's understanding in terms of the governmentality. Every theoretical perspective will have a worldview. So whether it is a curricular framework or a policy framework, we need to have a theoretical base actually, and we need to have a uniform theory base. What is actually happening in this document creation is there is no theory. In fact, the basics are very weak actually. It's just a kind of a kitty. What we say, I do not South Indian or North Indian. No, it's a kind of borrowing from everywhere and writing it in a good English and propose it. But the serious academics may not be liking it. Can we take more questions? Do we have time?
Sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, shall we conclude the session, sir?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We got profound knowledge from your session, sir. I am very grateful. Thank you. Thank you. A lecture and discussion about the curriculum consciousness, complicities of contemporary education dialogues in India. It is very nice session, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now I invite Dr. Amuda ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of Educational Technology, Bharathidasan University, to propose vote of thanks. Please, ma'am.
It's my pleasure to propose vote of thanks for the third day of Faculty Development Program. Today's resource person, Dr. L.N. Venkatraman, has given an animation on curricular aspects of contemporary education. We'll try to reflect on your thoughts, sir. Thank you for your deliberations. I wish to thank the Vice Chancellor, Registrar, Head of the Departments of Bharathidasan University and Teachers Education University. Dr. Rajeshwari's cooperation in conducting this event is also to be acknowledged. I also endorse the presence of all the participants. Wishing you to have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Is end பண்ணிடலாமா மேம்?
முடிச்சிடலாம்.
Okay, thank you.